Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. Between a full-time job in IT and a full-time job in podcasting, it gets harder and harder to sit down and read the books I'm interested in. This is where Audible comes in. I can listen on my daily commute, relaxing, or while out running errands and still get in the books I've been wanting to get into. You can download titles and listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. Now you can try Audible risk-free with a special 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. That's audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. Don't let your busy life get in the way of that great book you've been wanting to read. Go get your free trial of Audible today. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This is Geoffrey, and we've talked about many times before that I experience problems and struggles with my mental health, and really without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy does work. It's helped for me, but what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, or you're not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's really time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles, and it's time to start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And there's a special offer to Nerdery and Murdery listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. That's betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of Nerdery and Murdery.
You're an idiot. Welcome to episode 51 of Nerdery and Murdery.
51.
Yeah, you couldn't even do it.
I'm Zig with your Nerdery.
And I'm Geoffrey with your Murdery. Welcome to another week of our episode. So, Ziggy, I'll let you take over the show.
Thank you. To start with, I would like to say I've got a little color commentator here with me. That would be K3.
Hey, what's going on,
Welcome
guys?
again.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We are discussing the television series Detroiters.
Is it going to shock you that I've never seen this?
Oh, you need to see this. If nothing else, see the first episode.
What's it on?
It's either Peacock or HBO. I think it's Peacock. There's only 20 episodes. It was originally on Comedy Central. They did 10 episodes for one season, 10 episodes for a second season, and then they were done.
All right. Well, I'm learning about something new here today.
Detroiters is an American television comedy series created by Sam Richardson, Tim Robinson, Zach Kanan, and Joe Kelly. The series filmed on location in Detroit, starred native Michiganders Sam Richardson of Detroit and Tim Robinson of Clarkstown. The series premiered on Comedy Central on February 7th, 2017, and ran for 2 seasons.
So, I'm sorry, Michiganders? That's a real word?
Michiganders.
All right.
That's what they call themselves.
All right.
Hey, they take a gander at Michigan, so they're Michiganders.
Wow. The jokes.
Yeah.
It ran for 2 seasons. On December 11th, 2018, Comedy Central canceled the series. Richardson was born and raised in Detroit. His father was African American and his mother is from Ghana. Once or twice a year, the family would travel to Ghana, where Richardson's grandfather, W.A. Wiafi, was a chief and local political leader. Richardson graduated from the University of Detroit Jesuit High School and Academy in 2002 and studied theater at Wayne State University. Early in his career, Richardson performed at the Second City Sketch Theater Group in Detroit and then in Chicago. At Second City in Chicago, Richardson was known for his range of characters from sight gags to impressions of public figures. Tim Robinson. After high school, Tim Robinson toured the Second City Detroit's touring company before then joining the Second City Chicago. Robinson has performed at the I.O. Theater and Just for Laughs. Robertson and Richardson, both raised in Michigan, performed improv comedy together, first at Hamtramck's Planet Ant Theater and later at Chicago's Second City. This is where they met. They became close friends and conceptualized the idea of Detroiters. In an interview with Metro Times, Robinson stated that they sought to depict Detroit as it really is and to avoid the overtly negative light in which the city is typically shown. Lorne Michaels' Broadway Video produced the show, and Jason Sudeikis, Joe Kelly, and Zach Kanan were executive producers. Robinson and Richardson also wrote for the show. So basically, Jason Sudeikis is in a couple of episodes, particularly the first one. The entire bit around Jason Sudeikis is probably the funniest thing I've ever seen on television, including Community.
Huh.
Yeah.
Including the fish slapping dance from Monty Python in the whole...
Yes. The bit around Jason Sudeikis being hit by a car is funnier than the Monty Python fish slapping dance.
Okay.
So the series basically is about best friends and next door neighbors, Sam Duvet, Richardson, and Tim Cramblin, Robinson. They work together as creatives at Tim's family advertising agency business in Detroit, which Tim took over after his father stepped down. They produce low-budget TV commercials for local businesses.
All of which are hilarious.
Yes. Their lifelong best friends are trying to make their way in the world of local advertising in Detroit. Tim is married to Sam's sister, Chrissy. Tim's father was a local advertising legend, but those glory days are far in the past. Their employees include an elderly, longtime secretary, Sheila Portnandy, film school grad Leah, and Tommy Pencils. Tommy Pencils, the character of Tommy Pencils, has never heard anything.
What do you mean?
You can't touch this, or any common pop culture reference Tommy Pencils has never heard, and he's fascinated by them. It's a tiny little bit, but it makes me giggle every time he goes, "Can't touch this. What a great idea," and walks around saying it for the rest of the episode.
So basically, imagine the guy who has been living underneath a rock for 20 to 40 years. That's
Tommy Pencils. Leah, the film school student, is studying basically David Lynch. So when they let her do a commercial, she does it like David Lynch. And they have to take it off the air and redo it. They take fun in stupidity in this show. There's a real sense of friendship and a sense of place. They may not be big names or leading men, but the relationship really grows. They seem like great guys to go to a Pistons game with. There's also, for the last few years, Detroit has been sold as a ghost town and an urban blight. But their version of Detroit is a whole lot more appealing. Yes, it's had some bad times, but it's not, it's not Beirut.
Yeah, it's not to the degree of severity that most people are led to believe.
It was said that the way they portrayed it, the city couldn't be more charming, as if the guys would be good drinking buddies. Detroiters was shot on location in Detroit. Filming locations include Bell Island, Hamtramck, the Detroit Institute of Arts, and the headquarters of Little Caesars. Many of the commercials shown throughout the series are based on actual spots that showed in the 1990s in the area. The show hired over 200 people from Detroit, including cast members Leilani Ledesma, who is the film student Leela, Christopher Powell, and Shantae Dallin. The theme song was written by local artists and shoe entrepreneur Rick Williams. They also cast this gentleman by the name of Mort Krim. Mort Krim is an author and former broadcast journalist. Krim joined Channel 4 in Detroit in 1978 and stayed with the station for 19 years. So the two guys remember this guy being on television. And every night he would do a local celebrity thing, or like the squirrel on water skis, right? So they take that idea and call it Mort Krim's Chumps. And this guy, every night, Mort Krim on every episode is doing a Mort Krim's Chumps. And at one point, the guys make it on the show for their commercial that they did for the Hot Tub King of Detroit.
The show is just making me mad, to be honest, because, well, let's talk about this for just a minute. We had our own idea for a sitcom.
Yes.
Called Muffy's Friends.
Yes.
About three friends, and it was just utter stupidity. It really was.
That's why I like the show.
Yeah, and as you're talking about it, I'm seeing Muffy's Friends.
Yes. Yes, you will.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
It hurts, but it's still funny.
Yeah, it does hurt because we never got to do anything with that.
Nope.
Hey, two other guys got to do it, and they're having fun with it, or they did.
Yeah, we can't do it now, though. Between that and Friends and all kinds of other stuff, I mean, all of the ideas we had are gone.
Yes. This is basically, if you liked the ideas that we were writing about with Muffy's Friends, you will love Detroiters.
Interesting.
Yeah. So in 1984, Mort Krim hosted a technology program on PBS, New Tech Times. Krim is also the founder of Detroit area integrated marketing agency, Mort Krim Communications. And Krim is served as a spokesman for Magic Window Company in Wixom, Michigan. They used some of the Mort Krim ideas for the commercials because Mort Krim, when he came, loved the idea of the show, thought it was hysterical because he owned an advertising company that catered to small businesses. So he was kind of involved in the conception of the show. And the two guys were like, you have to be on this show. You are the news guy from our childhood, and we want you to do the same thing you were doing before, only a little more surreal, a little stranger.
Yeah, a little bit more quirky, if you will.
Yes, and it is hysterical. In a 2013 interview, actor-comedian Will Ferrell revealed that Krim was the main inspiration for his popular TV news anchor, Ron Burgundy.
Really?
Yes, Mort Krim is Ron. And like I said, the dude is in every episode. In a couple episodes, he's in it a lot.
Wow.
The first episode, the two guys court Jason Sudeikis, who is with Chrysler. On the way to a meeting, they hit him in the parking lot with their car. They put an empty bag of chips over his head and hide him in the bushes and then go to the meeting as if nothing happened.
Well, that's one.
I'm sorry. This bit kills me, and I've seen it 5 or 6 times. It's still funny because Jason Sudeikis is fine. He gets up after they're waiting. Where is he? I can't believe he didn't show up. He walks in with the bag of chips on his head and runs right into the window because he can't see where he's going. They help him inside. The next scene, he's in the hospital, and they go to the hospital and try to pitch him their idea.
Classic cast on and everything.
Oh my God. So Sam's sister is Tim's wife, Chrissy. Sam and Chrissy yell at each other like they're 8-year-olds every time they talk. Until they agree to go on a Soul Train-like dance show, and they get made fun of for their dancing. And then they start blaming each other and then get into a fist fight on live television. And then they start punching the other dancers in the show. Chrissy works for an auto plant building axles. So she's kind of tough. At one point, Sam starts going out with a city councilwoman, and she and everyone else believes he is her male escort. He starts a big scene at a city fundraiser, which costs her a lot of political capital. The client, the hot tub king of Detroit, he was filmed hitting on the makeup lady because they were filming a bunch of stuff, and this is the episode they gave to the film student. So instead of shooting the things that they'd filmed of him getting water poured on him and things like that, she films him hitting on the makeup lady in black and white. And so they're sitting, him, his wife, and his kid are sitting on the couch when the commercial airs, and it ends with his wife just staring at it. And the dad who used to run the company escapes from the mental institution that he was assigned to after he held a giant dinner party with little, you have the little plates with the little chargers on top of them, and you take the little lid off to see what it was, and it was turds. That's when he was committed. That's when the two friends had to take over the advertising agency.
To be fair, kind of played off like a funny joke, but at the same time, I can see why he would.
Yeah. But he comes back and he tells them that, he was released and he's back, and he takes over the company and he starts running it great, and he gets them up to a big account, and they're like, hey, he's back and this is great. And he blows it because he's crazy. And that's when they discover he didn't get released. He escaped from the mental institution. He actually led an escape of several criminals, and they take him back. But they spend one last night in Detroit, just the three of them, just hanging out.
That's sweet.
It was very sweet. It is also implied that he had an affair with the elderly receptionist, who's always hitting on Tim, calling him his dad's name. Now, this show only went 20 episodes. 10 the first season, 10 the second season, but every one of these shows is a gem. They milked most of the comedy out of every single episode, so I think even if they'd gone a third season, I don't think it would have been as good. I think 20 and done is perfect for them because they explored all the weird kind of side angles they could explore. And there is a genuine love for Detroit in this show. At the end of the first episode, they're sitting outside about 5 o'clock in the morning. The trash guys start coming out in the trash trucks, right? And they're cheering them on, and they know all their names because they wanted to show, hey, these guys are working in Detroit. They're working it every day. So they did that scene, and it's really great. And the people in the trash trucks are actually the people who work for the I don't want to say the trash people.
Waste management.
Wait, thank you. Waste management. That's what I'm looking for. They're actually the workers for the waste management company in Detroit. So that scene is really beautiful just by itself because they're cheering them on. Yeah, just going to work, cheering them on. After they let Leah, the film student, film the Hot Tub Kings commercial, they tell her that as they're leaving, they're like, hey, we understand you're a film student and everything, but we got to go fix this. And they're in the elevator and they push the button. She's like, so you really liked it? It's like, no, you suck. You shit the bed, but we love you. And the elevator doors close. Probably. Okay, that's one of the funny scenes in the first episode. So there is a scene where the two are brainstorming. And they start throwing heavy things at this window because one of them throws something across the room and it bounces off a window. I think it's like a stapler. The little HR windows next to a door. So then they start throwing heavier and heavier things to try and break the window, like awards and stuff. At one point, they pick up a desk and start to throw it at the window, and they discover a bottle of diet pills that had expired in 1974. And they're like, oh, man, maybe these will help us get this idea out better. It's like, well, I don't know. What kind of idea do you think? I don't know. Do you think it'll be bad? I don't know. And he turns to one and he's got a mouthful of the pills. He's like, no, I think they're fine. In the next scene, they're running around talking about this commercial. And the idea they had is naked woman, fully naked. You see her nipple getting pulled out in a tattoo parlor and pierced. And then the dad dries up and cries and says, she's all grown up. Drive Chrysler.
You know you're not selling me on this show at all.
Oh my God. Watch the first, it's 30 minutes. You will watch the first episode. You will laugh. You will go, I wonder if the second episode is as funny as this. Oh my God, it's just as funny. 20 episodes, man. I'm telling you, it will change your life how funny the show is.
I'll list this with Community that maybe at some point, but not so
Oh
on
my
this.
God, Detroiters is so funny. And the two comedians are really, they've been doing a lot of stuff lately. I want to say that Tim Richardson's got a sketch show on Comedy Central right now. And no, I'm sorry, Tim Robinson. Sam Richardson just got through doing a show with Nick Kroll. And he's doing the show with Tim Robinson right now as well. But yeah, that's about it for Detroiters, other than you really need to get out there and watch it. I have provided some of Tim's best scenes and some of Sam's best scenes because there are some YouTube videos that they've put together. I think the Detroiters guys actually put these together as their favorite scenes. I included the theme song, which is a really great theme song as well. And of course, pictures from the show and the IMDb listings as well. So,
Okay. Well, somebody go out there and give it a shot. I don't know that it's going to be me, but
right on. I'm telling you, 30 minutes. It's worth 30 minutes.
I'll let somebody give that one a shot and let me know what they think about it. Okay. Well, good information. It just, like I said, made me mad because it made me think of Muffy's Friends, and it makes me mad.
I don't know.
All the time.
Yeah, some of these jokes we have written.
I don't think they psychologically just went into your brain and grabbed all the ideas.
Well, they would have had to have grabbed them from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because that was in the 90s, the early 90s. It was before Friends that we were talking about Muffy's Friends.
Yeah, because we were so mad at Friends because they ripped our idea off.
You know, not that they didn't rip our idea off. It's not like we had published it anywhere or had submitted it anywhere. We just sat around talking about it at breakfast houses till 4 or 5 in the morning.
We wrote some, it was written down, but I guarantee you.
We didn't submit it to you.
No.
That's what I'm
Brighton
saying.
Kaufman didn't go through that notebook.
No. So awesome. So hopefully somebody out there give that a shot and let me know what they think about it. So with that, we'll step over to the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
For my episode today, I got my information off Murderpedia, Wikipedia, All That's Interesting, and the Criminal Discourse podcast. And today we are talking about Katherine Mary Knight.
Katherine Mary Knight.
So, slaughterhouse worker Katherine Knight became the first woman in Australia to receive a life sentence without parole after she decapitated and cooked John Charles Thomas Price.
She decapitated and cooked him?
Yes, sir.
And you said she was a butcher, right?
She was a slaughterhouse worker.
You know what? That is probably the perfect job for her to have in that line of work.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be a cannibal, working in a slaughterhouse is probably good training.
Well, as I think you'll find out, I don't think she was a cannibal.
Oh.
So she just did what she did.
Okay.
So Katherine was born on October 25th, 1955 in Tenterfield, Australia, and she was raised in a very unconventional and dysfunctional family environment. Her mother, Barbara Rugen, had been married to Jack Rugen and lived with him in the small town of Aberdeen in New South Wales in Hunter Valley. Barbara and Jack had 4 sons before Barbara began an adulterous relationship with Ken Knight, who was a friend and co-worker of her husband, who actually introduced Barbara and Ken together. The Ruffin and Knight families were well known in this very conservative rural town, and the affair caused a major scandal. So local backlash forced Barbara and Ken to move to Moree, and none of her 4 sons went with her. The 2 eldest boys continued to reside with their father, while the 2 younger sons were sent to be raised by an aunt in Sydney. But Katherine did go with her. Barbara would end up having 4 additional children with Ken, including twin girls in 1955. Barbara had 4 additional children with Ken, including twin girls that were born in 1955. Katherine was the younger of those 2 of the twin daughters. Sorry, she didn't have her before they went on. Boy, I'm doing terrible on my notes today.
Were they fraternal or were they identical?
They were twin girls, so
Identical?
doesn't say. It doesn't say. In 1959, when Catherine was 4, Jack Rogan died, and his 2 older boys who'd been living with him moved in with Barbara and Ken. Catherine's father was an alcoholic, and he openly used violence and intimidation, and would often rape his wife Barbara up to 10 times a day.
Good Lord.
Barbara, in turn, often told her daughters intimate details of her sex life and how much she hated sex and men. And later, when Catherine complained to her mother that none of her partners wanted her to take part in a sex act she didn't want to perform, Barbara told her just put up with it and stop complaining. Catherine claimed she was frequently sexually assaulted by several members of her family, though not by her father, and this continued until she was age 11. There are doubts about the details, but psychiatrists do accept her claims, and the events have been largely confirmed by other members of the family. Barbara's great-grandmother was an indigenous Australian from the Moree area, and she married an Irishman, and Barbara was very proud of this fact, and she identified as Aboriginal. This was kept a family secret as there was considerable racism in the area at the time, and Barbara's descent was a source of tension for her children. Apart from her twin sister, the only person whom Catherine was close to was her uncle Oscar Knight, who was a champion horseman, and she was so devastated when he committed suicide in '69 that she contained for years that his ghost visited her. Later that year, the family moved to Aberdeen. When she attended Musselbrook High School, Catherine became a loner, and she's remembered by her classmates as a bully who stood over small children. You're going to see this very, very quick. Catherine seems to be a very tough woman. She assaulted at least one boy with a weapon and was once injured by a teacher who subsequently was found to have acted in self-defense. By contrast, when not in rage, Catherine was a model student and offered earned rewards for her good behavior. She would leave school at age 15 without having learned to read or write, and she had gained employment as a cutter in a clothing factory. 12 months later, she left to start what she referred to as her dream job, which was cutting up the internal organs of animals at the local slaughterhouse.
Eesh.
Well, if...
Hey, everybody's got to do it.
That's right.
You know, somebody's got to do it.
Somebody got to do it. And if they like doing it.
Right. She was very quickly promoted to boning and was given her own set of butcher's knives at home. The knives were hung over her bed so that they would always be handy if she needed them, which was a habit she continued until her incarceration everywhere she lived. So in 1973, she met co-worker David Stanford Kellett. David was a very heavy drinker, which stemmed from two traumatic incidents from his previous railway jobs. First, when his best friend was killed in front of him in a shunting accident. Later, when he rescued injured occupants of a school bus in Kempsey, which had been struck by a train, killing 6 children. He eventually lost the job due to deteriorating behavior and performance, but he soon got to work at the nearby Aberdeen slaughterhouse and became close friends with Catherine's brother. Often, if David got into a fight, Catherine would step in and back him up with her fists.
Well, she is Australian.
Yes. In Aberdeen, she was well known for physically threatening anyone who upset her, and she ended up marrying David in 1974, and at her request, the couple arrived at the service on her motorcycle with a very intoxicated David. As soon as they arrived, Catherine's mother, Barbara, gave David some advice. Quote, "The old girl said to me to watch out. You better watch this one or she'll fucking kill you. Stir her up the wrong way or do the wrong thing and you're fucked. Don't ever think of playing up on her. She'll fucking kill you." And that was her mother talking. She told me she's got something loose. She's got a screw loose somewhere.
Good Lord.
Well,
And you know what? And I hear this in the Crocodile Dundee accent, too.
Nice sentiment from mom
Yeah,
or
from mom.
mother-in-law there.
She's fucking crazy. She'll kill you.
Well,
this is Australia, so...
on their wedding night, Catherine tried to strangle David. She later explained it's because he fell asleep after only having intercourse 3 times.
What?
David did wake up and managed to fight Catherine off. Their marriage proved particularly violent, and on one occasion, a heavily pregnant Knight burned all of David's clothing and shoes before hitting him across the back of the head with a frying pan, simply because he had arrived home late from a dart competition after reaching the finals. For fear of his life, David fled before collapsing to a neighbor's house and was treated for a severely fractured skull. Police wanted to charge Katherine, but she changed her behavior to gain favor with David and talked him out of dropping the charges. In May of 1976, shortly after the birth of their first child, Melissa Ann, David left Katherine for another woman, and he moved to Queensland, apparently unable to cope with the abuse. The next day, Katherine was seen pushing her new baby in a pram down the main street, violently throwing the pram from side to side. She got admitted to St. Elmo's Hospital in Tamworth, where she was diagnosed with postnatal depression and spent several weeks recovering. But after being released, Katherine placed 2-month-old Melissa on a railway line shortly before a train was due.
Good Lord.
She then stole an axe, went to town, and threatened to kill several people. A vagrant in the district known as Old Ted was foraging near the railway, and he found and rescued Melissa, by all accounts, only minutes before the train passed. Katherine was arrested and again taken to St. Elmo's Hospital. Apparently, she recovered and signed herself out the following day.
Wow. Quick recovery, I guess.
A few days later, Katherine slashed the face of a woman with one of her knives and demanded she drive her to Queensland to find David. The woman escaped after they stopped at a service station, but by the time police arrived, Katherine had taken a young boy hostage and was threatening him with a knife. She was disarmed when police attacked her with brooms and was admitted to the Morisset Psychiatric Hospital. Katherine had told nurses she intended to kill the mechanic at the service station because he had repaired David's car, which allowed him to leave, and then kill both her husband and his mother when she arrived in Queensland. When police informed David of the incident, he left his girlfriend and moved to Aberdeen with his mother to support Katherine. So he moved back.
She's just going to find me. She's just going to find me anyway.
So he moved back. Katherine was released on August 9th in 76 into the care of his mother-in-law, and along with David moved to Ipswich, which is a city west of Brisbane, where she obtained a job at the Dinmore Meat Works.
I feel like after a certain amount of mental admittance to psychiatric hospitals, I don't think you should be working in a slaughterhouse anymore.
Yeah, one wouldn't think. On March 6, 1983, they had another daughter, Natasha Marie. In 1984, Katherine left David and moved first to her parents' house in Aberdeen, then rented house in nearby Muswellbrook. And although she returned to work at the slaughterhouse, she injured her back the following year and went on a disability pension. No longer needing the rent accommodation close to her work, the government gave her a housing commission residence in Aberdeen. Katherine next met 38-year-old miner David Saunders in 1986. A few months later, he moved in with her and her daughters, although he kept his old apartment in Scone. Katherine soon became jealous regarding what he did when she was not around and would often throw him out, and so he would move back to his apartment, where she would invariably follow him and beg him to return. In May 1987, she cut the throat of his 2-month-old dingo pup in front of him for no more reason than as an example of what would happen if he were to ever have an affair, before going on to knock him unconscious with a frying pan.
She killed the dingo puppy?
In front of him.
Wow.
In June of 1988, she gave birth to a third daughter, Sarah, which prompted David to put a deposit on a house. Katherine paid off the deposit when her workers' compensation came through in 1989. Katherine decorated the house throughout with animal skins, skulls, horns, rusty animal traps, leather jackets, old boots, machetes, rakes, and pitchforks. No space, including the ceilings, were left uncovered.
With small children in the house.
Yes.
Or at least one.
Yes.
Rusty old equipment too, right?
Yes.
Stuff you could... You know what? It kind of makes sense for given her track record.
Well, after an argument in which she hit David in the face with an iron before stabbing in the abdomen with a pair of scissors, he decided to move back to his apartment in Scone, but he later returned to his home in Aberdeen and found that she had cut up all of his clothes. So David took a long service leave and went into hiding.
Yeah.
Katherine tried to find him, but no one admitted to knowing his whereabouts. Several months later, he returned to see his daughter, but found out that Katherine had gone to the police and unjustly told him that she was afraid of him, and they issued her an apprehended violence order against him. In 1997, Katherine became pregnant by 43-year-old slaughterhouse co-worker John Chillingworth and gave birth the following year to a boy they named Eric. Their relationship lasted 3 months before she left him for a man she'd been having an affair with for some time, John Charles Thomas Price. So John Price was born on April 4th of 1955, and he was the father of 3 children who Katherine had an affair with. Reputedly, he was a terrific bloke who was liked by everyone who knew him, but his own marriage ended in 1988. His 2-year-old daughter remained with his former wife, but his 2 older children lived with him. And John was well aware of Katherine's violent reputation as she moved into his house in 1995. His children liked her, and he was making a lot of money working in the local mines, and apart from violent arguments, at first, life was, quote, a bunch of roses. In 1998, Katherine and John fought over his refusal to marry her, and in retaliation, she videotaped items he had allegedly stolen from work and sent the tape to his boss. Although the items were out-of-date medical kits that he had scavenged from the company rubbish, John was fired from the job he had held for 17 years as his boss had no choice.
She's not afraid to destroy any part of anybody's life.
No.
Yes.
It sounds like she's the kind of person who would cut off her nose to spite her own face.
Well, that day he kicked her out, and she returned to her own home while news of what she had done began spreading throughout the town. A few months later, John restarted the relationship, although he now refused to allow her to move in with him.
That's fair.
And the fighting became even more frequent, and most of his friends would no longer have anything to do with him while they remained together. I mean, some of these guys went back to her, so,
Yeah.
it's...
I want to know what brought them back to her.
Well, in February of 2000, a series of assaults on John culminated when Katherine stabbed him in the chest. Finally fed up, he kicked her out of the house.
Yeah, when you get stabbed in the chest, I guess you kick somebody out.
And on February 29th, he took out a restraining order in an attempt to keep her away from both himself and his children. That afternoon, John told his co-workers that if he did not come to work the next day, it would be because Katherine had murdered him. Despite their pleas that John should not return home, he stated he was afraid Katherine would kill his children if he's not. So John arrived at home to find Katherine, although not there herself, had sent the children away for a sleepover at a friend's house. He then spent the evening with his neighbors before returning home and going to bed at 11 p.m. Earlier that day, Katherine had bought new black lingerie and had videotaped all her children while making comments which have since been interpreted as a crude will. She later arrived at John's house while he was sleeping and sat watching television for a few minutes before having a shower. She then woke John and they had sex, after which he fell asleep. At 6 a.m. the next day, the neighbors became concerned that John's car was still in the driveway, and when he didn't arrive at work, his employer sent a worker to see what was wrong. Both the neighbor and the worker tried knocking on John's bedroom window to wake him, but then they noticed blood on the front door, so they alerted police, who arrived at 8 a.m. The police broke down the back door and they found John's body with Katherine beside Price, comatose from a large number of pills. She had stabbed John with a butcher knife while he was sleeping, and according to blood evidence, he awoke and tried to turn on the light before attempting to escape while Katherine chased him through the house. He managed to open the front door and get outside, but he either stumbled back inside or was dragged back in the hallway, where he finally died after bleeding out. Later, Katherine went to Aberdeen and withdrew $1,000 from John's bank account at an ATM. John's autopsy revealed that he had been stabbed at least 37 times in both the front and the back of his body, with many of the wounds extending into vital organs.
Yes, 37.
Several hours after John had died, Katherine skinned him and hung the skin from a meat hook on the main beam of a door to the lounge room. She then decapitated John and cooked parts of his body, serving up the meat with baked potato, pumpkin, beetroot, zucchini, cabbage, yellow squash, and gravy in 2 settings at the dinner table, along with notes beside each place having the name of John's children on it. So she was preparing to serve his body parts to his children.
Well then.
There was a third meal that was thrown on the back lawn for unknown reasons, and it's speculated that Katherine had attempted to eat it but could not. She would later claim she has no memory of the crime. They did find John's head in a pot with the vegetables. The pot was still warmed and estimated to be at 104 to 122 degrees Fahrenheit, indicating that the cooking had taken place early in the morning. Sometime later, Katherine arranged the body with the left arm draped over an empty soft drink bottle and the legs crossed, and this was claimed in court to be an act of defilement, demonstrating Katherine's contempt for Price. She left a handwritten note on top of a photograph of John. It was bloodstained and covered with small pieces of flesh, and it read, "Time got you back, Jonathan, for rapping my daughter. You to back for Ross, and little John. Now play with little John's dick, John Bryce."
Wow.
Yeah, she was crazy.
Nuts.
She initially tried to plead guilty to manslaughter, but that got rejected, and she was arraigned on March 2nd, 2001 on the charge of murdering John, to which she entered a plea of not guilty. Her trial was initially scheduled for July 23rd, 2001, but it was adjourned due to her counsel's illness and got rescheduled for the 15th of October. When the trial commenced, Justice Barry O'Keefe offered the 60 jury prospects the option of being excused due to the nature of the photographic evidence, which 5 accepted. When the witness list was read out to prospects, several more also dropped out, after which the jury was selected. Catherine's attorney then spoke to the judge, who adjourned to the following day, and the next morning Catherine changed her plea to guilty, and the jury was dismissed. It was then made public that Justice O'Keefe had been advised of the plea change the day before, but he adjourned the trial and ordered a psychiatrist's assessment overnight to determine if Knight understood the consequences of the guilty plea and was fit to make such a plea. Catherine's legal team had planned to defend Catherine by claiming amnesia and dissociation, a claim that was supported by most psychiatrists, but they did consider her sane. 2 psychiatrists concluded that Catherine suffered from borderline personality disorder. You think?
Yeah, just a little bit.
No reason has ever been given for the guilty plea, and despite giving it, Catherine still refused to accept responsibilities for her actions. At the sentencing hearing, Catherine's lawyers requested that she be excused to avoid hearing some of the facts, but the application was refused. When Dr. Timothy Lyon took the stand and described the skinning and decapitation, Catherine became hysterical and had to be sedated. On November 8th, Justice O'Keefe pointed out that the nature of the crime and Knight's lack of remorse required a severe penalty, so he sentenced her to life imprisonment, refused to fix a non-parole period, and ordered that her papers be marked never to be released, the first time that this had been imposed on a woman in Australian history. In June 2006, Catherine appealed the life sentence, claiming that a penalty of life in prison without possibility of parole was too severe for the killing. Justices then dismissed the appeal in the New South Wales Court of Criminal Appeals in September, with Justice Peter McClellan writing in his judgment, "This was an appalling crime, almost beyond contemplation of civilized society." And as of 2017, Catherine Knight is still an inmate at the Silverwater Women's Correctional Institute in Western Sydney, and her nickname behind bars is the Nana.
The Nana?
The Nana.
And that's my story of Katherine Mary Knight.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for that.
I know it was a little gory
Yeah.
at times, but once again, kind of an interesting story.
I'm sorry, I'm still hearing the mom's voice.
Yeah,
She's fucking crazy.
very obviously she was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, I think some of those guys were crazy that kept coming back.
Wow.
I mean, that must have been some great sex.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was thinking. It was like, wow.
Okay, I just think maybe a couple of restraining orders could have helped in their case, but maybe she wouldn't follow them.
She put out a restraining order against one of her one of her boyfriends.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Well, that'll take us to the end of another recording week. Just wanted to remind everybody, as usual, you can find our website at nerderymurdery.com. There you can find the links to our social media, as well as the links and pictures to things we talked about in the show today. So do please go to our website. Let us know things you like to hear, things you don't want to hear. If you have some subjects you'd like us to cover, we are always happy to take those suggestions.
Oh, yeah.
You can also find the link to our Patreon. So if you wish to donate to the show to help keep it going, we appreciate each and every one of our patrons.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. You can also find the link to our merchandise, where if you'd like to see our Nerdery and Murdery merchandise, you can go there and go display it out in public. As always, please do remember to leave us a 5-star review at iTunes and anywhere you can. That helps us really with our show and helps get our content out there, the people that may be looking for our type of show. But with that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Geoffrey with your Murdery.
Cue the music.